All right, welcome everybody to today's webinar. My name is William and we're going to be starting now. Thank you everybody for joining us. Today's webinar is titled Boosting Your Bottom Line, Mastering the Profit and Loss Reports. I'm your host, William Binkley. If you've called in, you've probably spoken with myself or Christine. We're part of the support team and we are excited to bring this to you. In the webinar, what we're going to talk about today is what is the profit and loss report, the accounting types, where it pulls its information, checking for missing information, and a Q&A at the end of the webinar. So we're going to be talking about what the profit and loss report is, what information is it going to be pulling from, like where in the account does it take the information, and then some common questions like checking for missing information, how to determine if it's if the numbers are correct, and where you need to update your information if it's not. At this time, we're going to switch to our live demonstration. I'm going to pause the screen and then we will switch over to our test account really quickly. All right. So when you get signed in, you'll be on the dashboard and you'll come over here to the reports tab whenever you're ready to generate a profit and loss report. We'll go ahead and click that right here. And now you have different filters up at the top. Nothing's going to be showing yet because it's not been generated yet. So what you'll do is you'll choose the parameters that you're looking for. You can do it quarterly, monthly, on a weekly basis, or choose a specific date range. You can also choose specific units, the year, and then if you're doing monthly, the month, weekly, it'll show you weeks that you can choose, things like that. Quarterly, depending on the different quarters throughout the year, what you're looking at. All right, so we'll just go ahead and generate a report just with what's there right now. And while it's loading, the profit and loss report is basically going to be the report that shows you everything, all of your income and expenses from your account. All your dispatches and invoices, the settlements, fuel expenses that are entered, these are all recorded and then pulled into the profit and loss report so you can have a better overview of what you are spending, what you are making, and the miles associated with that as well. So you need to make sure you're filling out those trip sheets so you can also see how much you're making or how much you're losing per mile. Now here you'll see, like I mentioned, we've got the miles up at the top showing the loaded and empty miles recorded on the trip sheets, the income right here, lease income, mileage income, other income. We've talked about the chart of accounts before in our previous webinars, and from there, that will show you the different categories. So whatever category you've entered into your chart of accounts or whatever categories you are mainly using, these will appear in this section, expense or income, whichever one you've selected. Mileage income is also linked to the invoices. So whenever you generate an invoice and you mark it as paid, that's going to be showing up here in this section, right, where it shows mileage income. Anything that's extra or anything that you have categorized as different income, that will be added either as other income or whatever the category that you've entered it under as. Expenses we'll see here. Same thing, the different categories are going to be showing what has been entered under them. There are going to be some things, for example, invoices, whenever you have a factoring charge, or you're working with a factoring company and they take a certain percentage out, that will automatically appear whenever you mark the invoice as paid. And that will be showing as well in the profit and loss report. At the bottom of each section, you'll see the totals, total miles, total income, and total expenses. So whenever you're generating the report, underneath all of that, it shows you each section will have the totals so you can see what everything is, what everything adds up to. And then all the way at the bottom of the report right here, where you've got these red numbers, this is to show you your revenue per mile and then the amount that you are either bringing in or losing. And this information does pull from a different section. This information pulls from everything that has been added up together. So make sure for miles, for example, you're filling out the trip sheets and that you're marking everything as paid or finalized. Which brings me to the accounting type. Sometimes we will get people that call in and say that the numbers seem off, or it's higher or it's lower. And that might be dependent on the accounting type that you have. When you come over to the right-hand side right here, you'll see the word accounting type followed by accrual and cash. Now, accrual is going to be anything that has been marked as paid and anything that has been marked as finalized. So whenever you mark an invoice or a driver settlement as final, that will show up when you generate this profit and loss report. Cash, on the other hand, is only going to be invoices, settlements, and any other expenses that have been marked as paid. So if there's anything that's final, you're not going to see it. You're only going to see what has been marked as paid and any expenses entered, and any income transactions entered. And this information is going to pull from the dispatches and load, as we know, but depending on the time period that you have set up for the filters, that could also affect the numbers as well. For example, if we looked up a load that we created this week, today's the 7th, and we'll just say we go from the 3rd through the 9th and generate a report. There's a trip sheet somewhere that's got the loaded miles, but total income and total expenses not showing up. And say that we actually meant to do it for the 10th through the 16th. You'll see that we've got a fuel expense showing right here. That's associated with the dispatch or an expense that was added. But say that we've already paid a driver to take a load and we've already dispatched it out to them and we've generated their driver settlement for this time frame, but it's not showing here. What you'll need to do is check all of the dispatches associated with this time frame. So if we go back to all dispatches, we have one titled Holiday Run that was created on the 7th. Click that. And then we'll see that it was supposed to be taken on the 12th next week from home base to delivery point A was a total amount of $1,000. If we go to the invoice, say that we already know that we received the income, we received the money, we just have it as draft. If we go ahead and change it to finalize and finalize the invoice, that will now appear in the profit and loss report. Same with the settlement. We have it already generated in draft, and it's in draft form, but we'll go ahead and finalize it. And they're making $100 off of this because they had a fuel expense that's being deducted. So we'll go over here to reports, profit and loss. A lot of the importance with this is just so you know how to use the system for you, for your business. A lot of the times people are a little confused with the reports. They're not sure where they're pulling from. And with this, really the goal with this is to show you where everything is coming from and how to check if something seems off. So as we see here, total income, this is a perfect example. I just went ahead and switched it to finalize, but I hadn't put a specific date on the invoice. So right here, it's not showing anything. As for the settlement, we went ahead and finalized it, and that's showing here. But and it's also showing the fuel expense that was added. So we have a total of $700 in expenses. Now, if we go back to that dispatch, we'll go back to the invoice that's associated with it, and we'll go ahead and click edit. We'll change the invoice date. Here's one of those reasons why it's important to know when you are invoicing or when to look at a specific date range for information. Because if it's not showing and the numbers seem off, this is where this is one of the first things you should check: invoices and settlements. So we'll go ahead and update that. We're now showing the invoice date is 12/12. We'll finalize that. And let's go back to the reports. Go ahead and put in our dates again and generate the report. And as we see here, mileage income, we're showing that $1,000 on that invoice, $400 in payments to the driver, and $300 in fuel expenses. So we have a profit of $300. And keep in mind that when the numbers are red and in parentheses, that is going to demonstrate loss, whereas numbers that are black without parentheses, that is going to show you the profit. I know it might be a little weird with it saying loss on the left-hand side right here, but this is just going to show you everything, just show you the totals and the pay per mile that you are making. Now, if we go ahead and switch to cash, you'll see those disappear, and it looks like we have $300 in loss. So that finalized invoice is no longer showing. That finalized settlement is also no longer showing. We've only just got that fuel expense as well. All right. Now, at this time, we are going to go ahead and switch back to our Q&A session. And if at any point you have any questions, you can type it into the question box that will appear shortly. I switch the screen. Type it into the question box right here, related to anything related to the profit and loss reports. And I will answer them. Keep in mind, this is very important for whenever you are keeping track of your income and expenses, but also anything related to taxes. You can kind of see generally what you're going to be paying or what you're making each quarter, if you have to do any quarterly taxes or whenever you're doing your annual taxes. And this information is also shown in the year-end tax report, but it's shown in a different light. And remember to keep your questions related to the topic. If you have any questions related to something specific in your account, you can reach out to our support team, and we'll be more than happy to help. Right, one person had asked about their driver settlements. They were wondering if they're having issues trying to find the settlement. What should they look for? Because the report is slightly off in the driver pay. So I'll go ahead and switch back to the screen, switch back to our test account. And this is a really good question because that's another common thing where people will mark a settlement as paid, and they'll have it under one specific week, but they might have another one on a different week. Say they might have forgotten to process the payment or payroll, or they just updated it on a specific day without updating the date of payment. So if we go over here to driver settlements, we've got webinar last name. We've got the date as 12/07/2023. So if I go ahead and mark that as paid, help if I put a payment mode. Go back over to reports. Date range, bam, 10, bam, 16. We're still not seeing that payment right here, but we know that it was meant to be paid during this week on one of these days. But if we go back, not by a month, but by a week, we'll see that the payment appears right there. It's showing us $100. So we paid the driver there. It's not specifically going to show what that was per se, but you can use this information to then go back to your settlements and say, you know, I paid the driver, it's supposed to be on this week. We'll go back to driver payments, webinar last name, last payment date was 12/07. Or if something looked off in November on 11/08/2023, you can go back and check view, and we see that this was done on the 7th, was not supposed to be done, so we can just go ahead and void it. And go back to pending settlements, make payment, update it to the correct date, which will be the 15th, and then save if we put a payment mode. All right, so now we've updated the information. We'll go back to the profit and loss report. Date range, bam. From date 10th to date 16, generate report. And we see that here, payment was 100 after it was switched to this date. So it's showing here, you'll see the 100, you see the 300. We've got the mileage income from the invoice, and that information is now showing and is accurately being displayed. So it's very important to make sure that you're marking your invoices and your settlements as paid on the correct date. And if you're adding any kind of specific transactions, for example, let's go ahead and just add a generic expense, other expense. We'll go ahead and choose the payment mode, credit card. We'll just say it was office man that was getting paid, and he's getting paid for meals, because I'm sure we'd all love for our jobs to pay for our meals. That was paid by us, not a unit associated with it. This is another thing. If you're looking at specific units and you add an expense, check if it's on a dispatch, it'll already be associated with that unit. But if you're adding an other expense, make sure to put the unit, or if you want to put it with a dispatch, you can look that up here as well. Any receipts or anything, you can add that in there. Any documents that you want associated with it, it would help if we had put an amount for food. I'm going to say it was $55. And now we see that in this section right here, done on 12/07. Let's actually update that to be with the 12th. Go back to reports. 10, 16, generate report. And now this information will be showing right here. We see the meals category, and that is showing that $55 that we had entered. All right, very good question. Is there anybody else? And like I said, if there's any specific questions or anything related to your account, you can always call our support team. We are here Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Eastern. Any other questions, you can call us, email us. We will be more than happy to help you. And let's switch back over to our presentation. So the next webinar is going to be optimizing your returns, a guide to the year-end tax report. That was the other report that I had mentioned. And if you're looking at the settings in your account with the business reports, that will show you, you'll see that to the right of the profit and loss report. So that'll be December 14th, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And here are the webinar series for this month. Here's our theme for the month, boosting your bottom line. It's all about going over reports pretty much. So you're gonna see the unit reports, you're gonna go over the end of year tax report. We just finished profit and loss. And then at the end, we'll do just a giant overview of everything, where it pulls from, and different things, different features, how they connect to the reports as well. If you are new to TruckLogics and you just joined us, welcome. Go ahead and get signed up for a 15-day free trial. You can test all the features out. Everything that you saw today, you will be able to do. And you can either put in whatever loads you're currently working on, or even fake ones. Just to test everything out. Why not? Go ahead and go to TruckLogics today and get signed up. And once you do that, if you have any questions or if you want to schedule a demo, anything like that, get in touch with us. We are located in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Our phone number is 704-234-6946, and you can also email us at support@trucklogics.com. Follow our social medias. We will post more information, any updates that we're doing, anything like that, we'll post that, give a little blast, and that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, please reach out, and thank you for joining our webinar. Join us for the next one.